Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Friday, March 6, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy Overseas NHS Workers Day. Well, folks, it's time. It's time to soak it in. These are our final days. I'm not going to say that I'm going to gatekeep necessarily Ohio State basketball or college basketball in general, but these are the final days for those of you who are the A1 fans of college basketball, of Ohio State, of Indiana, wherever you may come from. This is it. The final few days where it's just us. It's not people worried about their brackets. It's not people making aimless, weird claims about Miami University and Oxford. It's just us, folks. It's the final game of the regular season. I remember back in November, the anticipation for Ohio State fans of saying, man, that first test against Notre Dame, what are we going to see from Ohio State? Then you get in near Christmas and that big game against North Carolina, and you get into Big Ten play, and you start to really wonder, what is this team going to be? And now here we are. That sweet, sweet March Madness theme song. It lifts our feet off the ground to a dance we all know by heart. March is here. March is heavy. March is amazing. And Ohio State and Indiana get to participate here in a huge game that has all of the implications of NCAA Tournament legitimacy and candidacy in front of them. Both the Hoosiers and the Buckeyes have a huge, huge game in this one, as each side right now looking to make its way into the NCAA tournament. This game is going to go a long way for the winner. For the loser, a long way, but in the wrong direction. So enjoy it. Soak it in. Remember, it's going to be July, and it will be the Summer Guest Series, and we'll be thankful for that for sure. We love the Summer Guest Series here on the Views from the Shop podcast, but at some point, we'll have to move on from the regular season, from the postseason, and basketball will be no more. So bask in it for now, as long as we can. That is my recommendation to you. So on today's show, we will preview Ohio State and Indiana, of course. Now, as we get into it, look, on YouTube, we're over 300 subscribers. Apparently, all it took was just posting on Twitter and saying, hey, who's going to be the 300 subscriber? And as of now, I don't even care. We're not going to look. We have more than 300 subscribers on YouTube. So awesome. Thank you so much for that. The goal was to get there before March Madness started. March Madness has not begun, and we have eclipsed 300 subscribers on YouTube. We're going for 400 next, or 306 next. I don't know. But thanks so much for helping us get there. Also, get to the Substack. I can't recommend it at this point enough in the season. I'll give you a sneak peek. It's in the description. Hey, remember that article? Jake Diebler, when he said, watch out if Ohio State gets healthy. Hey, watch out. Are you watching out? A lot of good content there. You can also get into the subscriber chat. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, this is as far as I'm going to take you. This is as far as you get to go. Everything else, well, you got to get there. You just got to get there, okay? You got a free week trial in the description of the show. Wherever you are watching or listening, you can get there. So make sure you get there. Get there before the portal opens, and that's as specific as I'd like to be. Follow on the socials. So, Ohio State, Indiana. Some are saying, I am saying, this is the biggest game of the Jake Diebler era. I do believe that. I don't think it was the Purdue game that Ohio State just won. Unless people are saying it was the first Purdue game that Ohio State won and that was the biggest game. I don't know. I get the argument there. I get the sentiment there. But there has never been a game under the Jake Diebler era where you could say with 90% certainty you're going to the NCAA tournament if you win this game until now, until Ohio State plays Indiana. So I think this is the biggest game of the Jake Diebler era for Ohio State. Of course, Indiana fighting for a tournament spot as well. Some are calling this the Gabe Cupps Bowl. Others on the streets are saying that the loser has to take Gabe Cupps next year. I know one program that won't have Gabe Cupps next year. There's a lot of programs, actually, that probably won't have Gabe Cupps next year. Actually, there's only one program that will have Gabe Cupps next year. That's what my sources are telling me. So, again, soak it in. We can bask in the glory of where we are in the season. Some say it's the Gabe Cupps Bowl. I would probably say it's more of a Joey Brunk Bowl, but that's just me. So a big one here between Ohio State and Indiana. Let's get into a preview. Let's talk about where Indiana stands right now. And unfortunately, Indiana on the bubble, just like Ohio State. This resume for Indiana, I got to say, I'm wondering why Ohio State is so far on the bubble compared to what Indiana is doing right now. So the Hoosiers, 19-11 this year, 11-8 in the Big Ten. That's fine. It's all good. And the net, they're 37th. But some of these metrics do not like Indiana whatsoever. Torvik loves the Hoosiers at 27th. Ken Pom, they're 41st. Wins above bubble, they're 48th. You got to be top 40. Resume average-wise. I don't know where Indiana is average-wise, but let's figure it out because we can do that. But I mean, as you look at the resume for Indiana right now, it needs some help. It absolutely needs some help. So this is, again, it's going to be a big game for the Hoosiers, and I'm looking for, come on, Torvik. I can't figure out where that is, and I don't care to look that much longer. Indiana's resume is not necessarily where it wants to be. It's not safely in the tournament whatsoever at this point. 2-10 in quad one, wins over Purdue and UCLA. Quad two, they're pretty good as well. 3-2, 13-0, undefeated, squeaky clean, and quad 3 and 4 games. Now, this isn't a comprehensive team sheet. It's not a comprehensive look at the resume, but it is where Indiana stands right now. Now, on the flip side, as we look at Ohio State here, the Buckeyes, as we update their resume, 19-11, 11-8 in Big Ten play, 32nd in net, 27th in Ken Pom, 26th in Torvik right now. The predictive metrics love Ohio State. They jumped, I think, 7 spots in BPI after that win over Penn State as well. 2 quad 1 wins. We are watching closely Wisconsin at this point. If the Badgers can jump, I think 1 spot at this point, they will be a quad 1 win as well for the Buckeyes. Got to keep an eye on Northwestern. You should be rooting hard for Northwestern to win. I mean, I guess in the Big Ten tournament, and then we move on from there. If they do, probably remain in the top 75 in the net. If not, Ohio State will lose a quad 1 win there. They're not going to get a quad 1 win in this one against Indiana. 6-1 in quad 2, undefeated in quad 3 and 4, just like Indiana. But the predictive metrics really like Ohio State a lot more. So that's how we see these two teams. Indiana, they started 7-0, undefeated in their first 7 games. They smashed Marquette. Caught my attention. I don't know about you. They also blew out Kansas State. The problem is both those wins mean basically nothing now because both of those teams are bad at basketball this season. So wins don't carry that much weight. However, after that 7-0 start, they ran into the buzzsaw that is Minnesota. Minnesota can be a buzzsaw to many, okay? I'm not putting Minnesota down. Not so well. Indiana put Minnesota down their last game, but I'm not going to do it. I far be it for me to do so to those Golden Gophers. Then they lost to Louisville, so 7-2, a little skid. They also dropped a game to Kentucky. Kentucky's been so up and down. It feels like this year, even that Texas A&M game they just played, very up and down, just in 40 minutes of play. Well, like I guess 15 minutes of play was it up and down, and then it was just really down. So it is what it is with Kentucky. Overall, they've stayed pretty clean in terms of games that they can't lose until that home loss to Northwestern just a couple of games ago. That caught the awe and wonder of a lot of Ohio State fans as well. They're fresh off a 30-point just icing of Minnesota. It was a snowball here. It was an icicle there. And before long, Minnesota could not move. And they lost 4 in a row before that win over Minnesota. Losses to Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois during that stretch. So it's not like it's that embarrassing to lose those games, but it is where they were. Indiana, first-year head coach Darren DeVries. We all know his story. We know a little bit about him. We know about his son. They both kind of step away from West Virginia. The son before the father, kind of go in reverse there. The son leading the father. And then West Virginia conveniently left out of the NCAA tournament. I don't know why. I still don't know why. North Carolina was in over West Virginia. But do we actually know why? If you're a conspiracy theorist, you know why. So Tucker quit a little bit sooner, but we all knew it was going down there. They're not in the NCAA tournament. And before long, DeVries finds his new role here at Indiana. And then Lamar Wilkerson is another player we got to talk about in terms of background. He's been really, really good, not just at Indiana. He's been excellent in Indiana. Really, really good in Big Ten. Really, really good across the nation. He was exceptional at Sam Houston State last year. 4-star in the portal. Top 50-ish overall, but he's been a major focal point this season for Indiana. So, when it comes to breaking down the offense of Indiana, we have to look at Lamar Wilkerson. So right now, the Indiana offense is averaging 78.7 points per game, 47.2% from the field, 34.8% from the three-point line, and they're number 38 in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency. But this offense, it lives and it dies, but mostly lives through their star guard in Lamar Wilkerson. So far this season, he's averaging 21.1 points per game, 2.4 assists per game, 3.5 rebounds per game. He's shooting at 47% from the field and 38% from the three-point line. Lamar Wilkerson has been phenomenal for Indiana this year. Again, I don't know exactly what they were expecting to get from Wilkerson so far this year. I would have to say he is exceeding expectations so far this year for Indiana. Wilkerson has been absolutely incredible so far this year, and you just look at how he's doing in terms of his performance in across the Big Ten in the conference this year. Number 2 in the Big Ten in points per game, only behind loyalty legend Nick Martinelli. He's number 10 among qualified players in three-point percentage so far this season, and he's number 2 in three-pointers made, only behind Nebraska's Price Sanford. So how does Wilkerson score? Well, a lot of it comes from the three-point line, but overall, he is capable of strapping the team on his back and scoring whatever way is possible to him, kind of similar to a Tim Duncan strapping on the ice to his back and legs after a back-to-back in the NBA late in his career. I guess you could compare the ice of Tim Duncan to Lamar Wilkerson playing for Indiana. Season high 44 points against Penn State, 41 points in a win over Oregon, 29 and 32 against Michigan State and Nebraska, respectively. This is a player, by the way, who's kind of cooling off as of late. Very small trend of cooling off. 18, 29, and 16 in his last 3 games. If you want to call that cooling off, I guess you can for Wilkerson. And he's not like Justin Arnsing it, not friend of the show, Justin Arns, probably has never heard of the show, has Justin Arns, but we know, as Ohio State fans, we know who Justin Arns is and how he scored. It was only from the three-point line. Wilkerson is getting these three-pointers made, the three-point production, with an above average, but not crazy high, 57% three-point attempt rate. So it's not low, but it is above average. He's effective from everywhere, 72% at the rim, 46% in the paint, and 43% in the mid-range. My question on Lamar Wilkerson in this game between Ohio State and Indiana is, how do the Buckeyes attack Lamar Wilkerson? This is a guy who can score from the three-point line. He can score as a catch and shooter. He can score off the dribble. Very, very successful is Lamar Wilkerson wherever he goes, wherever he shoots it. And by the way, this Indiana team has a 121 offensive rating with him on the floor. When he is off the floor, that offensive rating drops to 113.1. That is a 7.9 point swing in offensive rating in terms of on-off splits, and that's 82nd percentile in college basketball. So Indiana, when Wilkerson is on the floor, very, very successful offensively. Now, as we continue to talk about this Indiana offense, we have to talk about how they're scoring. And in large part, it's from three-point shooting, not necessarily making, but three-point shooting. The Hoosiers at this point, Indiana has really just fallen in love with the three ball this year. Number 8 in the nation in three-point attempt rate so far this year. They've got 3 players averaging at least 5.5 three-pointers attempted per game or more. That's Wilkerson leading the team at over 8 per game. His usage, crazy high from the three-point line inside, doesn't matter. He takes a lot of shots. You've also got DeVries. You've got Nick Dorn as well, a portal target of Ohio State in the last offseason, who take a bunch of threes for Indiana. Now, as a whole for the Hoosiers, they are averaging 29 attempts from behind the arc per game this year. That's 21st in the nation, yet they're only 144th in 3-point percentage so far this year are the Hoosiers. So as you look at their overall play, with the amount of 3-pointers that they're attempting and making the amount that they are as well at that rate, that would lead you to believe that there's some kind of a stark contrast in 3-point percentage and wins versus losses. Well, that's not the case. Pretty similar 3-point percentage wise in wins versus losses. However, there is a lot of volatility in their 3-point production. They've got 8 games with 12 or more 3-pointers made so far this year. In those 8 games, Indiana sits at 8-0, including a win over Purdue. They're undefeated when they make 12 or more threes in a game. On the flip side, they also have 8 games making 8 or less triples. In those games, they're just 3-5. So very clearly on Ohio State side, the Buckeyes are going to have to stop Indiana's offensive attack from deep in order to win this game. That's going to be a huge deal for the Buckeyes in this one. Now, with the really high 3-point attempt rate, the 2-point attempt rate, the 2-point average so far this year, very, very low. So low, it's 363rd in the nation so far this season for Indiana. They average 27.5 2-pointers attempted per game, yet they're 8th in the country in 2-point percentage at 60.3%. So Indiana's offense, they love the 3-ball. They don't love the 2-ball. They're much better shooting the 2-ball than the 3-ball. Now, only 6.3% of shots come from the mid-range, meaning basically everything else comes from the paint or from deep. In the mid-range, they still shoot it really well at 45.8%, really strong in the paint at 70.6% at the rim, and 44% in the paint overall. That's really, really solid. You look at Sam Alexis, he leads the team in paint points. Wilkerson is right behind. You've also got Tatum Connerway, Reed Bailey, who are really, really good there. Connerway in the backcourt, Bailey in the front court. So it's an offense that doesn't take a lot of 2-pointers. When it does, it's really, really good. So something Ohio State will have to be able to defend as well. That's Wilkerson getting inside. That's going to be Christoph Tilley, Ivan Nagovin staying out of foul trouble, Amari Bynum staying out of foul trouble. It's something that we saw in that Penn State game for Ohio State. We're going to have to see how they're able to do in this one, staying clean defensively and helping assist Ohio State's defense in terms of shots that go up from inside. And then the last note on this Indiana offense that I've got here, fantastic movement. So as I've watched Indiana games this year, and I've watched more of Indiana for some reason than many teams, which is pretty uncommon given the fact that Ohio State doesn't play them until March, and they play them once. Usually that would mean I don't watch this team as much as other teams. I've watched a lot of Indiana this year. Fantastic movement, 63.2 assist rate so far this season for Indiana. That is number 11 in the entire nation. Very, very good is Indiana in terms of assist rate so far this year. It's give and go, it's drive and kick. It's a lot of paint touch threes as well for the Hoosiers that allow them to be successful in finding guys open. They also take care of the basketball. Less than 11 turnovers per game. Connor Enright leads the team with 4.7 assists per game. They've also got 2 other players in Connerway and DeVries who are averaging 3 assists per game or more each as well. So these are guys who they find their open teammates. A lot of times in the half court, Indiana not a big time transition scorer, but they can be really, really successful. Can the Hoosiers scoring and scoring off of assists? Again, they love those paint touch threes, similar to what Ohio State likes to emphasize. Ohio State, they're going to have to stay active defensively in this game. They can't fall asleep at the wheel. If they do, just go back and watch Minnesota and Indiana. Watch a lot of games Indiana's played this year. They want to move the ball. They want to move off the ball. And they did a great job against Minnesota's 2-3 zone. That's something to keep an eye on as well, as Ohio State likes to throw that zone out there. I would expect them to do that in this one as well. So Indiana can be really, really good, really, really efficient. The offense is the unit to beat in this game. The defense we'll talk about here in a second, but Indiana's offense really, really strong so far this year. So Let's get into the Indiana defense now as we transition. Pretty hard pivot there, but it is what it is. I've paused the show 2 or 3 times so far. You might be able to know when it happened because maybe it picked up a little weird. Puppy's barking. I don't know why. He's 4 months old, man. Just go to sleep. There's no need for that. And I'm warm up here in the attic tonight. All right. Defense for Indiana, allowing 71.5 points per game so far this year. Teams are shooting at 42.3% from the field, 32.4% from the three-point line, and Indiana is 56th in the nation in adjusted defensive efficiency so far this season. Now, Indiana, they've gotten beat up a little bit by some really, really good teams as of late. Since February 15th, however, if we look at that adjusted defensive efficiency number here for the Hoosiers, they are 95th in the nation. That is way below their season long ranking. And again, we're adjusting for the offenses that they're playing at this point as well. So they're really not playing well whatsoever defensively. So what's going wrong with them at this point? All right, no smooth transition after that one. I had to pause again. Dog's being a dog. I have no idea where I was. I apologize. So we'll just get back into it here. Indiana's been been beaten by some good teams. Adjusted defensive efficiency still not good. Why? Well, they've gotten destroyed on the defensive glass. That has not helped over the last 5. Their defensive rebounding rate has dropped down to 67.1%. Their steal rate, 0th percentile in college basketball. Not the worst in college basketball, but just 0th percentile, okay? They haven't been turnover forcers this season either, so there is that. But at the same time, you got to be better than 0th percentile, right? So steal rate not there. They're not forcing turnovers. The biggest bugaboo, though, for Indiana defensively over the last 5 has been just allowing shot making. Season long, they've got a 48.4% effective field goal percentage, which is really, really solid. Last 5, that number has ballooned all the way up to 54.5%. That's going to lose you games. Even Northwestern shot 53.7%. They did just thwart Minnesota's offense with relative ease, but Michigan State shot 49% just from the field. Purdue was a crazy 65% from the field as well. They've got to shore up this defense if they want a shot to beat an Ohio State team that is on fire right now, and an Ohio State offense that since let's do this again. Since February 14th, which is that Virginia game for Ohio State, the Buckeyes are number 8 in Torvik. They are number 19 in adjusted offensive efficiency, which actually isn't that different from where they are across the season, and 29th in adjusted defensive efficiency. That offense for Ohio State has continually been very, very solid so far this year. So Indiana's going to have to shore it up defensively here in this one. They've been a pretty solid paint defense. It's not a team that possesses a lot of size. Ohio State, by the way, I mean, we talked about this last year. The Buckeyes just have not been big for a long time. If we want to look at average height so far this season, Indiana is 79th in the nation in average height. Among Big Ten teams, I believe Ohio State was 18th in the Big Ten in average height last year. This year, Ohio State is not 18th, but they're 98th in the nation, so barely top 100. Buckeyes don't have a lot of size. Not that that really matters. I guess my brain wandered there for a second, and you had to wander with me, so thanks for coming. Teams are scoring 28.7 paint points per game this season against Indiana. That's a really, really good paint defense. For the Hoosiers, Minnesota scored most of its points from the paint against Indiana, but it also scored 40-some points against the Hoosiers, so take that for what it's worth. They do allow a below average amount of attempts at the rim, right near average in terms of paint attempts. So it's not like Indiana's squeezing teams away from getting opportunities there. More so, we talk about Ohio State on this side. The Buckeyes in games this year, when they're winning, they're scoring in the paint. When they're losing, they're not scoring in the paint. So far this season, they're scoring 34.7 paint points per game. 43.4% of points come in the paint for Ohio State. That's Bruce Thornton. That's Christoph Tilley. That's Amari Bynum. That's a lot of Devin Royal as well. And obviously, Ivan Nagovin coming off the bench. These are going to be guys who are going to have to step up and score in the paint against this Indiana defense that has been pretty solid so far this season for the Hoosiers. One other note on the Indiana defense, they're prone to second chance scoring. Even with a solid defensive rebounding rate, they still allow 11.9 second chance points per game. Probably not a problem. Probably not something to really pay attention to in this one. The Buckeyes score less than you might imagine in second chance scoring, or maybe as bad as you would already think. Ohio State's offensive rebounding numbers, second chance points numbers have not been good this season. They've not been good over the past 5. Nothing impressive. So that's the Indiana defense. Keys to the game in this one. It's pretty dang simple. I had one very clear key to the game, and then I thought and I thought and I looked at numbers and I thought some more and I looked at some more numbers, and I just couldn't figure out a way to allow a key to a game for Ohio State to be anything other than one key to the game and one key only. And you can go to a couple of different things. You can look at how Ohio State has played over the last 5 or so. You can look at how Ohio State played against Penn State, for example, and all those different types of things, and say, how can Ohio State replicate that? I think that as you're playing a team like Indiana specifically, there's one major key to the game. You've got to defend the three with your life. There was a coach who said something along the lines of, we play to not die, but to live, or something like that. That's hot. I think it was Buckyball at Texas A&M. That is hot. I mean, imagine Jake Diebler just dropping a bar like that. The key to the game for Ohio State: defend the three with your life. Teams are shooting just 31% against Ohio State so far this year from the three-point line. Wisconsin, the conference's best in class in three-point shooting, made less than 10 triples in both matchups against Ohio State this year. And again, that's 2 games. Most teams get 1 game sample size against Wisconsin. That's just how this works. Ohio State crushed Wisconsin from the three-point line, allowing less than 10 in both matchups. Illinois made 11 against the Buckeyes. Nebraska only made 8 against Ohio State. Those are the only 3 teams ahead of Indiana in three-pointers made so far this year in conference play. So Ohio State, you keep track of Wilkerson and contain him. You keep track of DeVries and Dorn. You're going to have a chance to win this game. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to look at in this one. Again, looking back, let me find my sheet here. Just pause for a second. Indiana, all I need to know is this. Indiana is 8-0 in games where they make 12 or more three-pointers. So if you're Ohio State, stop the three ball. If you do, you probably win the game. If they make 8 or less, Indiana 3-5 so far this year. So it's not a sure thing, but it's getting close to that. So that's what we got to look at in this one. All right. Let's get into a prediction in this one between Ohio State and Indiana. Look, at this point in the year, we know who Ohio State is. We know who Indiana is. Especially on Ohio State, they're playing really, really hot right now. For Indiana, they're cold. They just started a winning streak and stopped a losing streak, but you beat Minnesota. You beat them by 30. Ohio State just beat Penn State by 30. So if we're going to take that away from Indiana, we got to take it away from Ohio State. But that said, as we look at this game, the first question I've got is, will Brandon Knoll play in this game? I don't think so. But Jake Diebler has all of a sudden gotten very, very positive publicly about the availability of Brandon Knoll overall. I've said in the insider subscriber chat what my expectations are and what I've been hearing about Brandon Knoll. If he plays in this game, that really helps Ohio State in the front court in terms of depth that they can have. But that's the first question I've got. The second is thought overall as we go into this game. Look, you can talk about Gabe Cobb's IU, Ohio State. You can joke about that. You can joke about Joey Brunk. All of that is fine. At the end of the day, this game is about Bruce Thornton. There is nothing else in the world in this game that any Ohio State fan can think about other than Bruce Thornton. Everything is on the line for Bruce Thornton when it comes to this game against the Hoosiers. It's the bobblehead night for Bruce Thornton. Everyone knows this. Everyone who's going to the game probably going to be lined up for hours, it feels like at this point, to secure a Bruce Thornton bobblehead. A win, you nearly clinch an NCAA tournament berth. There are some people, I talked to one bracketologist who said 99% chance they're in with a win. Another who said, based on bid stealers, they are more than likely in, very much more than likely in, unless we get an above average amount of bid stealers. So it's not for sure. They're not locked in as an NCAA tournament team with the win over Indiana, but you're very, very close there. And the odds are much better than not of you going to the NCAA tournament. And all that's been talked about on the national scale for Ohio State has been get Bruce Thornton to the NCAA tournament. So you have that. You also have Bruce Thornton with the opportunity to crush the program all-time scoring record. He can break Dennis Hobson's record in this game. All he needs is 12 points. That's it. If he does it, he is now the number one scorer in Ohio State basketball history, which is insane. Given the era that we live in with the portal, with NIL, Bruce Thornton could have left after his freshman year, after his sophomore year, junior year. So many different opportunities to leave, and I don't think Ohio State fans would have really been all that upset based on how he left. Like, you have the Felix Akpara and you have the Roddy Gale situations. I get all of that. Bruce Thornton, how many fans would have blamed Bruce Thornton for leaving Ohio State for Florida for his senior season? I don't know. Anyone who actually knows what's going on probably wouldn't have been mad at Bruce Thornton for that. I certainly would not have, but now he has the ability as a 4-year starter, as a 4-year captain, to break the all-time scoring record for Ohio State. All of this encapsulates senior night. All of this, you look at all the outside factors. This also takes place on senior night, where he's going to get his jersey in a frame. Mama Thornton's going to be there. It's going to be loud. I assume it's going to be emotional for this one as well. Just so much riding on this game. And it all comes down to Bruce Thornton. So what happens? Does Bruce Thornton rise to the occasion? Does he score 32 points in this game and lead Ohio State to an 84-72 win? Or, I mean, the flip side is the moment's too big for Bruce Thornton. He can't quite handle it. There's too much pressure. Indiana defensive, they bother Bruce Thornton. That's more than possible. It's certainly more than possible. But as I look at a prediction in this game, the BIP would say Ohio State -4.5, the total at 151.5. I feel like the fan base is really confident that Ohio State's going to win this game. And I completely understand why, but Indiana is still a pretty solid team. They're really good offensively. They've just been colder as of late. Ohio State has been much hotter as of late. For that reason, everything that Bruce Thornton has gone through over the past 4 years, it would almost be poetic for Bruce Thornton and Ohio State to lose this game. Honestly, coming up close time and time again for Bruce Thornton during his career at Ohio State, it would almost make sense for Ohio State to lose this game. But I'm not going to pick Ohio State to lose this game. There's no way you can find it within yourself. There's no way I can find it within myself as someone who does an Ohio State podcast to say, yeah, I think Bruce Thornton is going to lose this game. At home, senior day, breaking the scoring record, all of the different angles that you can go at in this game. I'm going to take Ohio State to win this game. And quite frankly, I'm going to take the Buckeyes to cover as well. All right. I appreciate you so much for supporting this show. I am exhausted at this point in the season. This has been the hardest I've worked on the show in a season. It has been the most work. It has been the most time that I've invested into the show. And quite frankly, I'm ready for just a short break between this game and then a recap show. And then there's not really much of a break because we got to preview the Big Ten tournament. But any kind of break at this point I need. I pretty much every night I'm staying up late to work on this stuff. Not that you care whatsoever, but I just say that to say thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting me. It seriously means the world to me, and the show has gotten much bigger than I ever thought it would. So thank you so much for helping support the show and be here along the way. All right. Enough of that. Sunday morning, probably Saturday night. I don't know, man. It's going to be a weird day. We'll see when we get a show. I will recap Ohio State's game against Indiana, and then we'll get ready for the Big Ten tournament. And then the NCAA tournament. Will Ohio State be in or not? We'll find out together. Until next time, thanks so much for being here with me today. I shut up before you shut me off. Go Bucks.